Hello, this is Dan Hoying from Agrarian Solutions, and I'm here today along with Dr. Larry Roth, Vice President of Nutrition and Research for Agrarian Solutions, and a beef producer, Mark Wilburn from North Carolina. We're going to talk this morning and give you some information. Mark had an experience that I think is worthy of getting the word out, what he went through with some of his yearling bulls right before he had his sale. And we're going to let Mark kind of go into that in detail and talk about coccidiosis in his bulls. And then we'll cover what he did to rectify it and a protocol that he used, including the detection monitoring that he used with CowManager. So we're going to let Mark talk. Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dr. Ross, for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity to share this. Yeah, this was this fall, late fall, as we were heading into our December sale. These bulls just had achieved yearling status. We were just before bringing these bulls in to do semen checks, and so happened to come to my office that morning before rounding the bulls up for semen check. And was sitting at my computer and began to get CowManager alerts to my phone through the mobile app. Um, Normally, those apps will take a glance. Those alerts will take a glance at them, and we'll kind of examine if we need to go make an immediate look at the cattle, or it can wait. This particular one, we kept getting multiple alerts for temperature and rumination. So at that point, I decided I've got to go out and check these cattle. I walked out of my office, out of the back of the barn to the pen where we feed those cattle. They were up, ready to be fed, and it was a tragic scene, to say the least. A very large amount of blood, cattle that were extremely gant. Um, you could tell we had a serious issue. So of course, CowManager tipped us off there, so we went out and checked those things, and obviously we knew we had a problem. With a limited knowledge base, I began to kind of digress through the progression and say, what could this be? Obviously, Coxie was the absolute clinical hit the nail on the head deal, and so we were able to get a hold of some cord pretty quick, because we knew that that's kind of the staple, right, for that kind of treatment, for that kind of deal. We got those cattle on cord, and we began that 7-day treatment. CowManager allowed us to kind of track if cord was doing its job, and it was. Cord flushed that system very nicely. We did kind of see a mid-treatment spike and then back down, but that's to be expected when you clean out that system. But we were able to track that. So towards the end of 7 days, I visited. If you can see in the graph on your screen there, you'll see that first black line was when we started the cord treatment. That sharp decline in rumination is what tipped us off to the Coxie. The 7-day period goes to that second black line. That would be when the cord would end. So through some conversations with Jeff Hossetter at Premier, I said, Jeff, what am I going to do here? I said, I have completely wrecked these cow system going into this sale. They're going to look terrible. I mean, I got to do something to get them back on feed and get them in shape. And Jeff said, he said, how about BioFresh? And I said, yeah. I said, great idea. And he said, I tell you what, he said, let's do this. He said, let's wait 48 hours after last treatment of cord to make sure that the cord has done its job and then it's through the system. And he said, let's rebuild it with BioFresh. And if you'll look, that black line there where we treated with BioFresh, and then the dramatic increase in rumination. It was amazing. Basically, within about 24 hours, those cattle were back to pre-Coxie levels of rumination, and in 48 hours, they had exceeded pre-event status. So not only did we rectify the problem, we actually increased rumination in those cattle, which allowed us to make up for lost ground. We lost 7 days of feed intake heading into our most important day of the year here, which is our bull sale. So the product, not only did it fix a problem, but it put us back in position to be successful. So we were really, really excited about the results of the BioFresh gel. And I've got to give props to CowManager as well. Without that system, I'm not sure we would have caught it as quickly. I'm not sure we would have understood exactly what was going on, and being able to achieve that rebound and get those bulls ready for the sale. And I'm just glad I can stand here today and tell you it was a success. Everything worked well. But I say all that to say this: looking back on things now after coming through the experience, I believe we've experienced a lower level of cocci in some of our cattle, especially in the beef world. These cattle are tough. They know how to adjust. They know how to survive. And I think sometimes we as producers may miss things, especially without the aid of a CowManager or something of that nature to tell us the rumination, what's going on inside that we can't see. And I truly believe that the BioFresh gel put into a system, a maintenance system for these cattle, would catch some of that, even if it doesn't become clinical, and go ahead and fix it before it becomes a problem. So I'm a firm believer in both things here. We will continue to use both things. Any stress event on our cattle, BioFresh gel will now be a part of the protocol going forward, whether that's weaning, semen checks, breeding, whatever it may be. If it's going to be stressful on these cattle, we're going to use the BioFresh product, and we're going to definitely continue to use the CowManager product. Those two things just work hand in hand to keep the level of herd health for us optimal.
Thank you, Mark. I'm going to let Dr. Roth chime in on what are some causes. Why are we seeing cocci, especially in yearling bulls, when normally it's in that weaning time? I come from the dairy world, and we have products to put in the feed to kind of mitigate the issues with cocci on the dairy side, but on the beef side, it tends to be more of an issue, or it can be. But I think you hit on the head, Mark, that a lot of it goes undetected, and it's a big cost expense for producers, not only in weight gain, but also in yearling bulls if you're trying to sell them and so on. So Dr. Roth, your comments on cocci and dealing with it.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Mark, for your comments. I was jotting some notes down while you were talking, and you covered a whole lot of things that I'd like to follow up on. And I think where I'd like to start is every single one of us on this call and everybody listening has cocci in their digestive tract. And now we're not sick because we have enough good bacteria to kind of hold the cocci down, and our immune systems are strong to hold the cocci down. So all's good. But when we get challenges that come up, and Mark, you were talking about weaning, we can talk about hauling cattle, moving them, and things like that. And I think, Mark, you were talking about last November when this broke, just before that, you were having what, 80s for highs, 30s for lows, 50-degree swings in a day. Wow.
Yes, sir.
That is a challenge on these animals. And so I also agree with what Mark said. I think that the real problem with cocci, and no offense, Mark, but the real problem with cocci is not so much that we see, because when Mark, when you saw it, you saw the bloody scours, man, you came out there with Corid, and you put the fire out. I think the real challenge comes in with that low level. Some people call it chronic because it just keeps going on. I call it subacute. It's just kind of that smoldering fire. It's causing some challenges in the track. Mark, you could go out there and walk that pen of bulls and you see a little bit of variable manure. This one's just right. This one's a little bit too loose. That's a little bit of that subacute or chronic cocci. So it's there in the calves, it's there in the bulls, and we're just waiting for some challenge to come up. And in your case, Mark, it was those 50-degree swings. And so the bulls were looking good. They were just kind of gradually going down, due to that smoldering fire. And then all of a sudden, it caught, and you saw the bloody scours. Now, I'll also agree with what you said about CowManager, because you started to see as I recall, some health alerts that body temps were going up. Oh, we got a problem here. You were starting to see rumination go down, and I put rumination with eating. And, Dan, you've heard me say this before. If a bunch of us go to a buffet and one of us only goes up once, that person probably isn't feeling too well. And it's the same thing with Mark's bowls. So those who weren't feeling too good, they weren't going up to the feed bunk as often as they should have been. And so their rumination minutes were down. That tells us we got a challenge. And I think, Mark, the neat thing about CowManager is that it can pick up these declines in rumination, 24, 48 hours before we're going to see symptoms that we really got an issue. So I think CowManager is a tremendous management tool to hit some of these things off. So every one of us on this call, every animal at Mark's farm, every farm has Coxie in their track, just waiting for some challenge to come along. And so traditionally, we kind of come along with Corid or Amprol, and the active ingredient in both of those brand names is Amprolium, and it kills the Coxie. The Coxie is a protozoa. And so often what happens is there's a virus like with BRD, or sometimes our bacteria, E. coli, Salmonella, that start to weaken the animal, that start to suppress the immune system, and then the Coxie jump up. Well, it's a good practice to bring in Corid or Amprol and put out the Coxie fire. That's good, but when you use that Corid, Mark, it didn't change the weather, and it didn't change the balance of E. coli and Salmonella in the tract. And so that's where coming in with the BioFresh Microbial Gel provided some good bacteria to fight off the E. coli and Salmonella, brought in some live yeast to help get that rumen up and going, and then vitamins A, D, and E to support the immune system. So when Mark brought the microbial gel in, he was trying to right things in the digestive tract so that we had the right balance to suppress the Coxie. He brought in the antioxidant vitamins to support the immune system. And I think, Mark, you were pointing out on that graph that these cattle were ruminating at a higher level than before Coxie raised its ugly head. And so I'm thinking that these cattle were feeling healthier now, uh, cleaned up the digestive tract, replenished the right types of bacteria, got the immune system going, and these calves felt good. And then they were ready to go up to the buffet bar 3 or 4 times because they felt so good. So I think that Coxie is that silent killer. It's that smoldering fire. I think that's really the big problem. It just kind of suppresses performance. And then if we get enough challenges, we get the bloody scours, and then we can put it out. So always be looking at our cattle, always be thinking what challenges we got, and then be ready to come in and replenish the digestive tract and support the immune system. So, Dan, I think that Mark unfortunately had the perfect storm with big temperature swings, and then came in with the perfect way to take care of it. CowManager to identify the problem, Corid to clean up the Coxie, microbial gel to replenish the tract and support the immune system.
Very good, Larry. So I got a question, and Mark touched on this, and I'll ask both you guys, because we see a fair amount of this going when we get weaned calves coming into a grow yard. And I'll ask Larry, so Mark, he experienced this and had to run each one of those bulls through a chute for the microbial gel. Is he got options? Do these feedlots have options when these groups of weaned calves come in? In some cases, they're giving them a dose of probiotic, but I think you hit on it, is it's just a probiotic. It doesn't always address all the bacteria, that gram-negative bacteria that's in those calves, where a microbial gel, but also a product to put in the feed, would rectify that. And we've had some success with DTX in with some of these yearling bulls, seeing great results. So your thoughts on what Mark could do in the future, or any producer, whether it be wean calves or yearling bulls, to help alleviate and prevent Coxie from taking over, because we can't control Mother Nature.
Dan, I really appreciate you asking that question, because prevention is, what is it? A little bit of prevention is worth a whole lot of cure. And Dan, one of the things I forgot about the microbial gel is we have the egg-based antibodies. And so the egg-based antibodies are like heat-seeking missiles to find the E. coli, the salmonella, rota, and coronaviruses, and also crypto. And so we need to take all of those organisms out, control them. So when Mark gave the microbial gel, he was bringing in the egg-based antibodies as well to hold down these bad guys. And I'm just thinking that maybe there was some crypto. We see crypto everywhere. Crypto is everywhere that we have cattle. So when I start thinking about prevention, and I start thinking about calves coming in, and they might be home-raised calves right there on the ranch, they're taken away from mama. They got an emotional challenge. They probably got a diet challenge, and all of that suppresses the immune system and tips the balance toward the bad guys. We got a couple of options, Dan. We've got the feed additive biocycle that has the egg-based antibodies and some beneficial bacteria in it. So what can we do to replenish the good bacteria? What can we do to bring in these pathogen-seeking missiles to take out the bad bacteria, the viruses, and the crypto as well? That's one option. The other you talked about was DTX. If we've got some mycotoxins that are trying to punch holes in the digestive tract, the castle wall that protects the body, we need to protect that castle wall so that we don't get a load on the body's immune system. So we've got a couple of options, and that's where, Dan, we can test the feed. If we got mycotoxins, let's go get DTX. If the feed's relatively clean, let's do the biocycle. And I really like what Mark was talking about. Anytime we've got a challenge, we're running that animal through the chute, we need to do some microbial gel. Keep the digestive tract balanced, support the immune system. And the other thing that was interesting, I should say, about Mark's situation, so often we think of Coxie with those wean calves. It can happen to any animal of any age. The right challenge, the right situations, Coxie raises its ugly head.
Thank you, Larry. I'm going to give Mark the last word, and you hit on a subject using the microbial gel. So Mark, with your experience and what you just went through, tell everybody what your plan is to moving it forward. You know, you caught it early. You had CowManager. That's a great opportunity for producers to catch disease, catch health incidents early. But the other part is, what products are you going to incorporate? And I'm going to show the slide, and you showed the cow, and it came up on CowManager, where one day she was fine and the next day she wasn't. And it was a huge benefit to using
Yes.
microbial gel. If you quick touch on that, and then how you're going to wrap this up, when what you're going to do moving forward.
So what you're looking at here is a particular cow that, again, we got an alert from CowManager, rumination, and actually activity. I mean, everything was wrong with this cow, temperature. So immediately we went over and checked this cow, and she was extremely clinical for what we thought to be hardware, and it did end up being hardware. So immediately we got the cow up. We put a magnet in the cow, and a kaopectate solution type deal, and that's where most people would end the treatment, right? And from what I understand, in that type of a treatment, it is a 7 to 10 day rebound for that cow to get back fully on feed intake because of the gut upset and the pain and the things associated with a hardware instance. In this instance, we gave her, the magnet. We did go ahead and treat her with antibiotics, but we also treated her with BioFresh Gel. And within 48 hours, that cow was back on 100% feed. And as you can see in the graph, within 4 days, she was back to her normal activity pattern between eating and rumination. I spoke to a vet or two after the instance, and I said, is this real? And they said, wow, that is amazing. They said that you sped that up ×2. So again, another stress situation, a health event where we used the gel that helped the rebound occur twice as fast as clinically you would expect. So I mean, here's what we're doing going forward. I mean, we were already doing some of this, but we're going to double down on it. When every calf here is born, it gets Convert Gel, no questions asked. Doesn't matter when they're born, they get Convert Gel. Between calving and weaning, if there's any instance of sickness, we will treat them and they will get Convert Gel at that sickness. At weaning, we will go to BioFresh Gel the day of weaning, and those calves will go into the development lot. We do utilize corn silage as a part of our development ration, so we will be on DTX for the development period all the way through when these cattle leave here, whether that's through the bull cell or the females move back out after breeding to summer pasture. And so any other stress event that may occur, i.e. A semen test, when we set those heifers up for the first time to breed, we're going to go ahead and give them BioFresh Gel just to double down and make sure we're keeping them healthy through that. We do utilize therapies at weaning as well. So we think hand in hand with those products between the DTX, the Convert, and the BioFresh Gel, that we're giving those cattle the absolute best opportunity to have a stable gut environment all the way through till they reach that stage where they're bred and turned out on pasture. So that's kind of the plan going forward here right now.
Very good. So with that, I think we're going to wrap this one up. And so anybody that's listening to this, if you got questions on maybe a product you might be seeing at a producer or you may be using, or if you got more interest on any of these products available through any of the Select Sires reps, you can reach out to Mark, Larry, myself. If we don't know the answer, we'll find somebody who does, but try to keep you on the right track. As you know, there's a lot of products out there. Some make some really gaudy claims that maybe don't live up to all the hype. And we've all had those issues and seen those situations. So with that, we're going to thank everybody for attending. And with that, we'll see you all later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.